If you've ever tried to change someone's mind and ended up feeling like you lost a piece of yourself, you're not alone. We live in a world addicted to being right. But here's the quiet truth most people never hear. You don't need to win an argument to win a soul. I've seen relationships fall apart not over truth, but over tone. I've seen good people say wise things with the wrong posture and lose the very influence they were trying to earn. And I've seen others, humble, calm, composed, speak just a few words that changed the atmosphere of a room. What made the difference? It wasn't intellect, it wasn't superiority, it was honor. You see, disagreeing is not the problem. Conflict is not the enemy. The real danger is disconnection. The emotional violence we commit when we try to correct someone without first understanding them. And that's where this simple formula becomes a lifeline. It's not a technique, it's a way of being, a way of protecting both truth and the person in front of you. Here's the formula. Validate emotion. Share personal experience. Offer a new frame. That's it. 3 steps, but they must come from sincerity, not strategy. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone says something you deeply disagree with. Your first instinct might be to correct them. But if you do, you've already lost them. The moment someone feels attacked, their mind closes. Their heart shuts down. Even if you're right, they can't receive you. So instead of correcting, begin with validation. Say something like, "I can understand why that would feel upsetting." Or, "That makes sense, especially if you've seen that happen before." Now pause. Let them feel heard. Next, share your own story. Not as a weapon, but as a window. You might say, "I used to see it that way too, until I went through something that shifted my perspective." Now, and only now, offer a new frame. Maybe there's another angle here, something I hadn't considered at first. That's how minds open, not through correction, but through connection. There's a reason why stories heal and arguments divide. Stories speak to the soul. Arguments speak to the ego. And when the ego feels threatened, it fights, even if it knows it's wrong. So we begin not by proving a point, but by creating a bridge. And that bridge starts with emotional validation. Now, let me be clear. Validation is not agreement. It's acknowledgement. It's saying your feelings make sense, given your experience. It's choosing to see the humanity behind the belief, not just the belief itself. And that small act, that choice to honor someone's emotion without judgment, it softens walls, it invites trust. You might be the only person in their life who didn't rush to correct them, and that alone plants a seed. The second step, sharing personal experience, takes courage, because it's not about saying what's right. It's about revealing what's real. I once had a student who held a very rigid view about forgiveness. He believed it was weakness. Instead of debating him, I shared a story about someone I loved, a man who had forgiven after betrayal, not because he forgot the pain, but because he refused to carry it any longer. I didn't try to convince my student. I simply let the story speak. And days later, he came back with tears in his eyes and said, "That made me think about my father. I haven't called him in years." That's the power of lived truth. It doesn't demand agreement. It invites introspection. Then comes the final step, reframing. Reframing isn't reprogramming. It's re-seeing. It's offering a new lens gently, without stripping the old one away. You might say, what if it's not about weakness, but about emotional freedom? Or maybe forgiveness isn't forgetting. Maybe it's remembering with peace. These aren't conclusions. They're invitations. And when offered with humility, they carry more weight than any correction ever could. Because ultimately, you're not trying to win. You're trying to serve the deeper truth in both of you. That's what this formula protects: connection over conquest, dignity over dominance, presence over pride. Some people think that agreeing to disagree is a weakness. But I've come to believe it's one of the highest forms of emotional discipline. Because anyone can shout, anyone can argue, but to sit in a moment of tension and still choose respect, that takes spiritual strength. And that's what this three-step formula cultivates. You're not just managing conflict. You're honoring the sacredness of human difference. You're reminding yourself and the other that disagreement doesn't have to mean disconnection. It doesn't have to break something. It can build something if handled with care. Let me share something I've learned in countless conversations across decades. When people feel truly seen, they become more open, more curious, more humble. And when you disagree with compassion, people begin to trust your silence as much as your speech. They lean in, not to defend, but to understand. And isn't that what we truly want? Not to dominate, but to connect. Not to be feared, but to be felt. Sometimes the greatest compliment someone can give you isn't agreement, it's safety. They may not change their opinion in that moment, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that memory will stay long after your words fade. That's why we must guard our tone, not as a performance, but as a form of reverence. Because every conversation is a chance to reflect something deeper than ourselves, something higher. There's a proverb I love. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And I've seen it with my own eyes. One gentle answer has saved friendships. One personal story has opened a closed heart. One humble reframe has ended a generational cycle of blame. This isn't theory, it's legacy. It's the daily choice to be a peacemaker, not by avoiding truth, but by delivering it through love. You don't have to walk on eggshells, but you do have to walk with intention, with wisdom, with the kind of kindness that refuses to weaponize words. So from this day forward, let your disagreements become sacred ground, not for battle, but for building. Let your words never be used to wound what your heart is trying to preserve. Let your voice be firm with truth, but soft with compassion. Because every time you choose validation over ego, every time you offer a story instead of a sermon, every time you reframe instead of correct, you are not avoiding truth, you are delivering it with wisdom. That is what influence truly is, not the ability to overpower, but the capacity to awaken, to help someone see something new without feeling ashamed for where they stood before. And maybe that's what the world is starving for now, not louder voices, but cleaner spirits, not sharper arguments, but deeper grace. You don't need to be an expert to do this. You just need to be present, emotionally honest, spiritually anchored. So here's my invitation. The next time you're faced with disagreement, pause. Not to prepare your counterpoint, but to prepare your heart. Breathe, listen, validate. Then speak from your experience, not their failure. And if you see a better way, don't force it. Frame it. Say, maybe there's another way to look at this. Let your influence be an invitation, not a demand. Let your conviction come wrapped in kindness. And let your legacy be this, that you were a person who stood in truth and left no one feeling small. Because in the end, we don't remember who was right. We remember who made us feel respected. So choose the way of dignity. Choose the path of inner discipline. Choose to be the one who knows how to disagree without ever starting a war.